Here is the overview I want you to pay attention to. So as you can see here on Form 1040, like the top part is pretty straightforward. So you got to put your first name, last name, your social, okay? And if you're filing a joint return, you have to put the same thing for your spouse. And then the home address, you have to put your street address, your city, your state, and zip. And if you want to contribute to the presidential election fund, you have to put that there. So I have chosen to donate $3 to that fund, and so this is pretty straightforward. Okay, now the filing status, you choose the appropriate box here. I'm choosing to file as a single man, and in 2023 I had no digital assets. So digital assets, we're speaking about Bitcoin and so on and so forth. So here I put no, but if yes, there are some instructions that really are particular to that situation. And I'm choosing nobody can claim me as a dependent or my spouse as a dependent. So basically it's pretty straightforward. And actually I'm filing as a single man, so I don't have any dependent. But if you had dependents, this is where you put in the dependents box, you put the name, first name, last name, the social, their relationship to you, if they're your son, your daughter, and so on and so forth. Pretty straightforward. Next, I want to show you, I want to talk about the income situation. So this year I was very lucky. I made 100 grand. And so line 1A all the way through 1A to 1G, there are no sort of items. And so you have some tax exempt interest, none here, but we have qualified dividends, 2,500. And when you add those two, you basically have certain amounts. And then if you had I had a capital loss. So here I would have to attach Schedule D and 2,500. So you can see that the bottom line here is that my adjusted gross income, my AGI, is $100,000. Okay, and so it's pretty straightforward in terms of what you add and subtract and so on and so forth. And then I'm actually itemizing my deductions this year. I don't have a standard deduction. I'm itemizing, so my itemized deductions amounted to 20 grand. And so when you actually remove everything, including the qualified business income deduction from Form 8995, everything comes down to my taxable income being $75,000. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. Next, I want to talk about the tax and credit. So you can see that on line 16, so you have the tax. Let's say I am attaching 8814 and 4972. So really here, I have paid during the year, I have paid $10,000 in taxes. And if there's any amount from Schedule 2, line 3, $2,500, I'm actually talking about that. I will show you later on what I really mean by Form 8814, 4972, and Schedule 2. And then what will happen here is that your total tax on line 24 is $15,000. I mean your total tax. My total tax is $15,000 for this year. And so basically, and the payments. So now the IRS will actually reconcile how much I owe versus how much I've already paid, or how much was withheld from my paycheck during the year. So this is where everything is reconciled. So basically, the federal income tax withheld amounted to $17,000. So you can see the delta here. So my total tax is $15,000, but I was withheld $17,000. So we have a delta of $2 grand, right? And basically, there is also another element that I need to add, which is actually, if you look at on line 29, I don't have any additional child tax credit from Schedule 8812, so that's why I'm not putting anything. Nor do I have anything about earned income credit. I mean, I'm making so much money already, so I don't qualify for the EIC anyway. So, but if maybe you qualify for the EIC, and so if you do qualify, you will put it on line 27. And if you qualify for the additional child tax credit, the ACTC, you got to put it on line 28. And I don't qualify, but I do qualify for the American Opportunity Credit. And so I put 1,000, that's a credit. And so what will happen here is that, as you can see that on line 32, everything, all the credits, all the payments and credits amounted to 1,000. When you add everything, so I have paid a 17,000. I have paid. They have withheld from my paycheck 17,000, right? And basically, I also qualify for 1,000 in credit. So everything goes to 18,000, and you will see that I owe 15,000, but I've paid and earned credit of 18,000. So there's a delta of 3,000. So you put that on 35A. So that's my refund, and I put my the routing number and the checking account, the savings account number, where I want the IRS to put the cash into, and I want part of it to be applied to my 2024 estimated tax. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 1040. I'm just walking you through what that form is, how to really fill it, and pretty straightforward. Next, I want to show you the bottom part of the Form 1040. So basically, this is where on line 37 here, it says the amount that you owe, right? So, but I don't owe anything, so I don't have a problem there. But if you, let's say you are in a scenario where in your particular situation, you happen to owe more. I mean, you happen to pay less than you owe. So in that situation, you wouldn't have a refund. You will have to owe the IRS a little more. So this is where you will put that particular amount. And now, if there is an estimated tax penalty, in other words, if there are penalties for underpayment. So if you actually paid less, especially when it comes to quarterly payments or when it comes to those payroll taxes, if you are a self-employed and you happen to like you're not really paying enough taxes, or you haven't told your employer to withhold enough taxes, then there is a penalty. Now, if you use accounting software, the penalty is calculated automatically. But if you're doing things manually, you're gonna have to see instructions. There is an entire set of instructions that will tell you how much you will actually have to pay in penalties. So, and at the bottom here where it says third-party designing is if you actually want someone else to speak about your tax return to the IRS. If that's the case, then you put the person's name here. You put the person's their phone number and their PIN. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. And where it says you have to sign your Form 1040. Okay, to sign your form, date it, and you have to put your occupation. And so if there is a PIN that the IRS sent you, you have to put it here as well. And you have to put your phone number, and you have to put your email address. So any kind of information that you will have to put so the IRS can contact you. Should they want to contact you, you put it here. And if you have paid someone to actually do your taxes for you, you put the person's sort of credentials at the bottom so everything is clear. And again, if the IRS wants to contact them, they can just reach out to them. Not a problem. So basically, so you have had it. So the question here is that let me give you the approach you need to really pay attention to. So when we talk about Form 1040, you have to understand all the entire the U.S. taxation system, everything revolves around Form 1040. This is really the form that really is quintessential to everybody. Doesn't matter if you are a business person, it doesn't matter if you are whatever. You got to file your Form 1040, okay? So this is the primary document for individual taxpayers to report annual income to the Internal Revenue Service. And this is a form that captures, as you saw, essential financial details, right? Deductions, credits, influencing the calculation of owed taxes or refunds. And so accurate completion of this form is actually crucial for compliance, making it a cornerstone, in our view, in the annual tax filing process, okay? So it's one of those things where you have to really file it. Again, I want to repeat. It doesn't matter if you own an LLC, a C corporation, S corporation, if you own a nonprofit, whatever. You as a person, you gotta file your taxes, okay? And everything happens on Form 1040. So the purpose of the Form 1040 is for, like, you have several kinds of purposes, if you will. You have income reporting, you have tax liability calculation. You have deductions and credits, so you have the ability to itemize deductions or claim standard deductions, influencing your taxable income, really, when you think about it. And also, one purpose that we have with Form 1040 is that you have filing status determination, so you are able to see whether or not you should be filing as a single, married, or house of household. It really depends on a lot of situations, though, okay? And depending on your filing status, we are talking about tax rates and deductions that are actually applicable to you, to your particular filing status. Also, you have credits and payments. So Form 1040 allows you to actually have a clear idea about the credits and payments that you can actually qualify for. You have income adjustments. You want to look at Form 1040 as a comprehensive financial overview provider, and you also have the ability to manifest tax compliance. You also have data verification, and you have record keeping. So you have a constellation of purposes that Form 1040 really helps you to fulfill. Boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about Form 1040. I'm just walking you through this form so you have a clear idea how everything works this year. So when we talk about Form 1040, who has to file it? Well, the thing is that individual taxpayers in the U.S., everybody has to file it, okay? So we're speaking about U.S. residents, U.S. citizens, okay, and certain non-residents who meet specific criteria. So they have to do this to fulfill their income tax obligations. And there are different variations of Form 1040, such as Form 1040A or Form 1040EC, that those were previously available for simpler tax situations. But as of 2018, this have been consolidated into the revised Form 1040, okay? And so basically, in terms of whether or not you have to file, based on our analysis, everybody has to file, everybody, okay? And so the thing is that U.S. citizens who lived in or had income from a U.S. possession should actually file, and residents of Puerto Rico can use tax topic 901 to see if they must file. So, but I would say 95% based on our research, 95% of residents in this country actually have to file. Even if you do not otherwise have to file a return, and this is a big one. You should file one to get a refund of any federal income tax withheld. Let me repeat that. Even if you do not otherwise have to file a return, you should actually file one to get a refund of any federal income tax withheld. You should also file if you are eligible for any of the following credits: earned income credit, additional child tax credit, American Opportunity Credit, credit for federal tax on fuels, for instance, and also a premium tax credit. And the final one is the credits for sick and family leave. So it's one of those things where you got to have at least, filing your taxes is always a great idea. I don't care what anybody tells you. Don't be scared about filing for taxes. It's you just imagine that you are trying to be a good citizen, a law-abiding citizen. So the thing is that don't look at taxes as something that allows you to fulfill your responsibilities as a citizen, which it really is, by the way. So file your taxes no matter what. Let me give you the steps you need to really follow here. So when we talk about completing Form 1040, and you got to understand that you got to gather all your tax documents, okay? We're speaking here about Form W-2. This is actually the primary form that is used to report wages paid to employees and the taxes withheld from them, right? And Form 1099, which is really used to record income you received as an independent contractor or through some other source. And when we talk about Form 1099, you have a 1099 NEC, you have 1099 MIS. So NEC, that's non-employee compensation. So this is actually a form that's actually a little different from Form 1099 MIS. Bottom line is, any income that you got from all sources, you have to report it to the IRS, okay? And you also have to think about adding the details of standard deductions applicable. So when we talk about deductions, there are some deductions. For example, you got to see like whatever you want to write off, see if the total amount is actually way more than the standard deduction. And the standard deduction actually changes every year, and this is actually based on your filing status, okay? Whether you're filing as a single or you're filing as a married, joint filing as a married person, or you are filing as a head of household. So it really depends on your situation. Then you want to fill in the dependents portion. So if you are filing as a head of household, you have to really fill the dependents portion. You gotta calculate your total income. So here we're speaking about you actually, because see, when we talk about total income comes from various places, all right? It can be wages, it can be other extra compensation, it can be capital gains, it could be a lot of things, okay? And then you have to calculate your annual tax bill. So this one of those things where you want to make sure that you want to see the total amount you owe in taxes before factoring in certain tax credits, okay? And then you want to calculate your tax refund or bill depending upon whether or not you actually paid a little more or you pay less, okay? And if you happen to have a refund or even a bill, you got to specify where you want the direct deposit to go, or where you want what you want the IRS to actually debit your account on a specific date. Now you have to put the bank account number, the bank routing number, and the type of account, checking or saving. You have to do this because certain banks have restrictions based on the number of transactions you can have from a savings account, for instance. Let me close to this conversation to understand that when we talk about Form 1040, you got to really understand the ancillary schedules that come with it, right? And it's one of those things where you got to really have a clear idea. So we talked about Schedule D, for instance. So the Schedule D for capital gains. You have Schedule A for expenses, for instance, for itemized deductions. You have Schedule C. If you have a small business, if you're a small business owner, you probably heard of Schedule C. So the thing is that when we talk about the lettered schedules, it's one of those things where you have to have a clear idea which one applies to you, and everything depends on your particular situation for this year. One thing I want to say though, it's that it's a lot easier to file taxes electronically than actually trying to do it manually. I mean, very few people do it manually nowadays, but hey, listen, if it works for you, not a problem, but just make sure that you know what you're doing if you want to actually file manually, because when you file your taxes electronically, the software actually takes care of the software asks you a few questions, and based on your answers, the software will determine which schedules actually fit your situation, and will file those schedules automatically along with your Form 1040. Okay. And one thing I also want to say here is that if, let's say, you actually submitted let's say a faulty 1040, a Form 1040 that is inaccurate, you actually have the ability to actually make corrections. So if you notice any mistakes on the form after you have submitted it, you can amend your return by filing Form 1040X. So when we talk about Form 1040X, we're speaking about a quick process where you only update the boxes that will change on the corrected form. And so it's a lot easier, because the thing is, the last thing you want is for the IRS to get back to you and ask questions, and then the last thing you know, they start auditing your return, and even or this year's return, but also last year's and the year before, and you do not want to have that. So it's always better to be transparent, to be forthcoming, and to say to the authorities, listen, I think I really made a boo-boo here, and I'm just correcting it. So when we think about Form 1040, you have to understand this is actually the linchpin of annual tax filings, and this is a form that actually does a lot of things. It captures vital financial details that actually shape tax obligations. And so when we talk about Form 1040, it's not just about income reporting. We also have tax liability calculation. You also have a comprehensive financial overview, so the IRS knows exactly what's really happening here. And it's one of those things where you are able to take advantage of deductions, credits, and other forms of tax items to make sure that you are not only compliant with your tax obligations, but also you are benefiting from the fact that you are filing your taxes. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. Let me do a quick recap here. So in today's conversation, I spoke to you about Form 1040. So I give you the overview, the approach, the steps, and now the recap. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.